Hi, everyone. So in this video, we're going to talk about terminology. That's because anatomy and physiology is at its core a class on terminology. We're going to have lots and lots and lots of new words that we're going to need to be able to use in the best way that we can. Now, to help us do that, we need to understand that this terminology is not just little bits of fancy or little bits of trivia to be thrown around or used on a random Saturday night. Instead, the terminology that we're going to be using is very important because this terminology allows us to be both succinct and highly specific. So it allows us to be both succinct, that's to say use very few words, while also being very, very specific about the exact thing of which we're talking. Now, we can see this use of terminology even just in the name of the class. This class is called Anatomy and Physiology, which means we expect to learn something that is anatomy, and then we expect to learn something that is physiology. So anatomy means that we are looking at form and structure. Physiology is functions. However, these two things are not different. They are really just two sides of the same coin. Form is always going to follow function. Something will look the way it does specifically so that it can perform the functions that it's trying to perform. Okay, the bones of the skull are curved and they are flat. Why? Well, they are curved because they are protecting a soft structure that is inside, and they are flat because, well, if you want something that's very protective, it makes sense to build something that is nice and flat, right? A shield is what protects us, like protected soldiers on the battlefields. Well, how do they do that? By being this big flat thing that stopped anything from the outside. The bigger, flatter the thing, the more stuff it would potentially stop, right? So the same thing is going to be true for the bones of our skull. And this is going to be the case as we look at everything else. If you look at the parts of the bones of the skull, there are going to be holes. Why are there holes? Well, that's because we need to move something from one side of that plate to the other side of that plate. We need to be able to move something through that bone, and the only way to do that is going to be to go through a hole, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so the importance of these words really cannot be overstated. Now, something else that cannot be overstated is also the importance of the parts that make up these words. So just real quickly, let me find an example. So here we have cardiovascular. Cardio meaning heart, vascular meaning blood vessels. Words have roots in them. So it makes a lot of sense that when we are trying to learn some of these terms, that we break down the words every single time. Every time you see a new word, see if you can break it down into pieces or word roots that can help you understand it more. That's because there are fewer word roots than there are actual just terms that we're going to use in this class, which means if you can learn a bunch of word roots, you can save yourself a ton of time downstream by knowing what the word roots are. Now, this first chapter is going to have lots and lots of the roots that we're going to be using as we move through, whether we are talking about stuff in the system. So say endocrinology, that's going to be the study of the endocrine system, which is going to be the use of hormones to help regulate things. Our cardiovascular system, I just told you. But we also have sections and planes whose names are going to come up a lot. So this is a coronal section, coronal or frontal plane. So that means we're looking at something from the front, or we have sliced something into a front and a back. A sagittal section, or mid-sagittal, mid tells you just in the middle, tells you that we are cutting something into the left and the right. So anytime you see the word sagittal, this should automatically tell you, hey, we are cutting in something in half or into left and right halves. Coronal means we are cutting something into front and back. So whether it's talking about the plane, or whether it's talking about the suture of the skull that is actually through this plane, or the suture of the skull that is in this plane. If you remember what the mid-sagittal plane is, or what a sagittal section is, when you see the word sagittal suture, it will make a lot more sense as to what that is. Now, the same thing is going to be true for all of our regional terms here. I'm not going to go through and point out every single regional term. That's just because some of this is going to be down to you to learn some of their parts and pieces and just try and learn these, because these are going to be used for the entire semester or for the entire course. And many of you are going to go into healthcare after this is all said and done, which means you're going to be using these terms even after that. These terms are very important because these are going to be the roots for blood vessels or for bones or for connections or for tendons or for any number of other things. So make sure you spend some time learning the regional terms. Now, we can come up with a few here. So carpals, if you've ever known someone that had carpal tunnel surgery, well, carpals tells you, hey, that means it is a tunnel that is supposed to be in the wrist. In fact, it's a little tunnel that tendons move through. And in the wrist, whenever that gets impinged, all of a sudden you're going to get numbness and stuff like that in your hands. Axillary, if you're ever told to take an axillary temperature, this is especially common on young children or infants. Well, where are you going to take it? You're going to take it in the armpit. We all know of the pectoral muscles. The pectoralis major, that's going to be, the major tells you it's the big muscle of the chest because the pectoral region is our chest, and so on and so on and so on. If you do something manually, you are doing it with your hand. So take some time to learn these. Pick 4 or 5 and go through them over and over and over and over again. Once you really know those 4 or 5, then move on to the other 4 or 5, or to another 4 and 5. That's because these are going to be some of the very important root terms that we are going to use throughout the course. Now, some of these do have Greek or Latin roots. So if any of you have taken Latin or Greek or something like that, then you'll probably recognize some of these terms. If you speak Spanish, you probably recognize a few of these terms as well. Manus is one of these that is based in Latin. So you can see manus and hand pretty simply. So spend some time with these. The terminology here is incredibly, incredibly important. Now, one thing I will say is that some of these words, if you change a single letter in this word, you can actually quite drastically change the term. So because of that, I do count off for spelling. I know that that sounds mean, but if you are off by a letter, it will not get full credit. It's usually enough to kind of just make you realize, hey, that you misspelled it, and hopefully you get it right on the next time. However, if you change a single letter in the word and it does change the meaning of the word, then it will not get credit. A good example of this, just off the top of my head, would be friend versus fiend. So fiend is F-I-E-N-D. That is only one letter away from friend. However, a fiend is usually someone that is trying to do you harm, whereas your friend is kind of the opposite. So keep that in mind. Spelling does matter. So when you are learning these things, make sure you are kind of hooked on phonicsing every single word. Sound it out, spell it in your head. Spell it however you say it in your head, or say it however will help you spell it, because spelling does kind of matter. So make sure you spend some time learning these, but it really is not possible to overstate the importance of the terminology here.